Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is running for re-election to seek a third consecutive term, and if elected, he'd be the longest-running Democrat to hold that office in state history. But in such a blue state, do Republicans stand a chance to topple him? A downstate farmer and former state legislator ran against him 3 years ago. Could he run it back a second time? Former State Senator Darren Bailey is on the record. Senator, good to have you with us.
Well, it's good to be here. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Are you going to break any news with us today?
No news broke today, so
Okay.
it's going to be probably a few weeks.
But you're thinking about it?
We are considering it, yes. Yeah, it's been an idea. As I look at the landscape, I just think it's gotten much more worse than I had ever imagined that it could, and I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy about the potential fighters to challenge him, and there seems to be that movement that we had still exist in Illinois if we can get the people to show up and vote.
You did have quite a grassroots base, especially downstate during the pandemic and after that, but there's the math and there's the state. So let's face some facts.
Yes.
In 2016, Donald Trump lost Illinois by 17 points. In 2020, Donald Trump lost Illinois yet again by 17 points. He lost again by double digits last year. Not to rub it in, but you lost your bid for governor in 2022 by double digits. Just last year, you ran as a MAGA-style candidate in a congressional seat and lost in that primary to another Republican there too. Illinois Republicans right now desperately need to pick a winner statewide. I don't think you disagree with that. So why should Republicans believe that the MAGA path is the right choice to win now? What would suddenly be different?
Well, I think what's happening right now is telling that story. Literally today, we have the mayor of Washington, D.C. coming out and thanking President Trump. They're saying they saw a radical change in crime over the past few weeks that the National Guard have been in. At least Mayor Tim Walz, had enough integrity to thank President Trump for the offer of help. Crime is still an integral problem in the big cities. I recently heard a poll come out that 81% of the people do believe that crime is a problem in the big cities. People are just now receiving their Ameren bills and their ComEd bills. They're not happy with what they're seeing. Property
crime
taxes.
And prices.
Yeah, the economy and crime, yes.
Let's look at that. You mentioned the big cities. You have in the past called Chicago a hellhole, in your words, and you've proposed sending in the National Guard. It sounds like to my ear that you're repeating that here. Chicago already spends nearly $2 billion a year on policing. And if you believe the crime statistics coming out of the police department there, if you believe the law enforcement officers, they say crime is down double digits. We know homicides are way down because we can see and count the dead bodies. Why should voters trust your rhetoric over those facts?
Well, and I think that's serving as a state representative, standing up for the people during COVID, suing J.B. Pritzker. I believe I am trusted. There is a trusted voice. There's boldness and courage that I have tried to exhibit, sometimes on my own, in the state house and after that. So people are going to have to do their own research to understand what they do trust, because I'm hearing those same numbers, but Cindy and I were in Chicago recently, and the people don't. Yeah, it feels great on Michigan Avenue, and it feels great on Lakeshore Drive.
Well, less so than it did 6 years ago, actually.
Right, but we have vacant buildings. Still a 20% vacancy rate. Those buildings are gone for one reason, not necessarily the economy, but because of safety. This past weekend, I looked up as I heard those exact same percentages that you just expelled, and this past weekend there were 5 dead, 27 shootings. A year ago, 7 dead, 24 shootings. 2019,
statistically way down from the 70s and 80s when it was
7. Right, but not under the reign of Pritzker.
You famously criticized mask mandates during the pandemic, but now every American who scrolls through their social media feed sees viral videos of unidentified federal agents, many of them wearing masks, not for virus reasons, but to conceal their identity. They're seizing people off of streets, taking them away in unmarked vehicles. Do those images bother you?
Yeah, I think that's concerning. I think there needs to be a lot more transparency. I also understand in certain aspects of law enforcement where identities need to be protected. I get that. But as a whole, with police officers, for whatever reason, I don't see that where I'm at. I see that on social media, so I don't know to what extent that is. But
building trust in the community in St. Louis.
As governor of Illinois, there would be no one wearing masks
You wouldn't allow that in Illinois?
I do not see the point of that.
President Trump's ICE deportation raids recently wiped out 70% of a Nebraska meatpacking company's workforce overnight. This was widely reported in the New York Times and in publications across the country. Reporting has shown that you've used immigrant labor on your own farm, so you know as well as anyone just how important that workforce can be to the Midwestern agricultural industry. Have you noticed any impact yet from Trump's deportation raids, and do you support them even if they might gut the very labor that you rely on?
Well, so my labor is legal. It's an H-2A program. We've been doing this for quite some time. So if there's ever a time to put a plug in out there right now, Bailey Family Farm, we need truck drivers and we need help this fall.
Are you saying that there are some workforce shortages?
Oh, gosh, yes, there are. Yes, big time. And so, I see and face the same thing with some of these people. I don't know if they're legal or not, but the workers that come to our farm, they come usually around September 1st and they go back home in December. They come through harvest. If there's people out there working that have been here illegally, I mean, let's get back to what this country is so great about and offering hope and offering promise. There is a way to become a citizen in this country. I support that 100%. And if we need workers, well, let's open the door. Let's make it easier for more people to become citizens. But I also have to sit back and I have to ask the question, did the workers go? There's a lot of people. I do support, means testing from time to time for people who are drawing, disability. Let's make sure. I think President Trump even suggested that is if you can at least be at the Walmart, greeting line and telling people hello as they come in, anything.
So you'd suggest more stringent application or qualification requirements for people to receive state or federal benefits?
Yeah, I touted that running for governor as well.
I hear you. So one of the things journalists test for is ideological consistency. And it's okay to change your mind. I'll say that. I think that people who learn new information can change their mind. But I want to ask you this, because I've watched you debate in Springfield for years. I've covered all your campaigns for higher office. If you believe so strongly in local control, which you've always called for, why should the federal government get to send troops into Chicago against the governor's will, against the mayor's wishes, against the city council's wishes?
So what's the primary role of government? It's to protect the people.
But you believe in federalism.
Yes, I do. But I also believe that when things are broken, such as they are in Chicago, and I believe they are in many large cities, I believe it is up to somebody. Thank God we have a president. It's working in Washington, D.C., and I think that at all cost, we come in, we protect the people, we make things safe again. I think that, there's no horror stories coming out of D.C. Everybody's, J.B. Pritzker is using this as a political ploy. Let's just call it what it is, because many other mayors have been congenial, about this, about the offer at least, and immediately J.B. Pritzker, tries to scare the people into thinking that we've got a dictator that's going to come in and use the military. I don't see that at all.
I guess the question is, would you grant the same benefit of the doubt to a Democratic presidency? Right? I mean,
I would. I wish that Joe Biden would have done the same several years ago when it really needed to be done, when it was really obvious that it was so bad. But
so your view of states' rights has carve-outs for
no, there's no carve-outs.
Presidential power.
No. One of the aspects of one of the requirements for sending, number one, obviously, the governor should ask. Mm-hmm. But revolt is a scenario that a president can send in troops.
Insurrection, right?
Invasion. Let's think about that. I mean, if we've got such the problem in Chicago, and we know that we do with Chicago, the mayor and our governor harboring many illegal people who are here illegally, I say that's a reason for the federal government to come in with the National Guard, with troops, and assist, these aren't policemen, assist with the wonderful policemen in Chicago.
You mentioned getting back to our country's roots. Thomas Jefferson famously said, when the people fear the government, there's tyranny. When the government fear the people, there's liberty. Which do we have now?
Well, we don't have the movement that it's going to take, to redo what the Constitution allows for the people to stand up and say we've had enough. We have a free. We're somewhere in the middle. But what we have is a lot of apathy with the people who are really angry, not showing up at the poll to vote or to put themselves in the position to govern themselves. That's what I believe is our biggest, that's my biggest concern and frustration, that the people.
Those are your voters, the people who don't trust government.
Yeah, Yeah, there's not many people that trust government.
You've said you want to restore Christian values in government. I'd like to explore that thought a little bit. Does that include in public schools?
Oh, absolutely. Public schools, well, okay, let's back up a little bit. It's morality. When I say that, I believe that we should put the family first. Let's start celebrating the family. I think we all agree that the shooting that recently took place in Minneapolis at the Catholic school, I mean, every time we look at a scenario, there seems to be a breakdown somewhere within the family where it all started. Let's get back to the roots of somehow getting together, lifting the family up, keeping dads in home, keeping families together. But right now the economy is in shambles. People are having to work. They're having to work way too much. They're not home when their kids get out of school. They're not home when they should be because they've got to be focused on paying the bills. Yeah, I see this as all intertwined. So yeah, marching in.
You're skipping around to
marching into the school and saying that you got to throw in the Bible on the desk, and that's not really what I'm after. I'm after moral integrity of the family, of which I find in God's Word to make that the centerpiece of the restoration of all of our problems.
Okay, so a few examples. Should public school children be taught that America is fundamentally a Christian nation?
Well, I think that I didn't really, I was taught that, but not in those words, because when you go back and read our Declaration of Independence, when you look at our Constitution, you see that ingrained everywhere. It's the threat of removing that specifically that is the concern.
A different example, should public school children, for example, be taught that marriage should only be between a man and a woman?
Yes. I do support that, but where's public schools rolling that at? Why does public school have to deal with that? Again, the family. Public school needs to educate. We need to teach our kids to read. We need to teach them to write. We need to teach them to do math. We need to do a better job at science. We need to get history back into the class. So really, we'll back up.
You're not sure?
No, a lot of that stuff has to do at home. If the family decides that they want that specifically, then we should have school choice, and they should have the choice. So yes, that's another option, but school choice would demand that if parents aren't satisfied with the school that their child is attending, that they should be able to allow through tax credits, vouchers, whatever, to send their child to a place that would teach them those values. But I'm seeing an all-out attack of what you just mentioned, on families, on children, and in our colleges and in our public school. Let's forget that, because in Illinois is falling way behind. Most schools, have a 60-70% of the children by the state's own standards cannot read, write, and do math at grade level. That's a problem.
In different school districts, there are various educational outcomes from the test scores. Should the Supreme Court overturn Obergefell?
That is a good question. I'm going to have to consider that one, think about that one. I haven't really thought about it.
The reason I'm asking is, you might know, right now there is an evangelical Christian group who works together with Kim Davis, that Kentucky clerk, to ask the Supreme Court to reverse federal protection for gay marriage. If the court reverses Obergefell, and should you run for governor, which is something you're considering right now, voters would want to know, I think they would deserve to know, if you would take any effort to restrict same-sex marriage in Illinois.
So I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. I think everyone that knows me knows that. But the reality with a lot of these issues is that comes from the House and the Senate.
Or a creative executive who uses
laws.
executive power beyond what we've known it to be.
Yep.
So would you, as an executive of the state, take any action in that direction?
Well, that, again, as I told you from the beginning, that needs a lot of thought, because there's a lot of things that have been done. I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman.
I want to ask you a little bit about what inspires you as you consider this journey of yours, the political path. You've often spoken of politics and your role in them in, I think, objectively speaking, rather fairly dramatic religious terms, sometimes about spiritual warfare. Your campaign bus was painted with Ephesians 6:10 through 19, which describes the whole armor of God standing against the wiles of the devil. You even named your Christian school after that same passage.
Right.
Do you really see yourself as a warrior fighting in a battle good versus evil? And if so, how do you balance that with the duty to serve all Illinois citizens and not just those who share your faith?
Communication. And that's what I look forward to. And you know, as when I considered running for the seat of state representative, I thought I was going to serve for 10 years, kind of home, but it was that platform. It was a platform to share hope that hey, things can be different. There is somebody here with some common sense, which is missing grossly today. When I had the opportunity to move into the Senate position, larger platform, and so it was when I had the opportunity to run for governor. I mean, I gave up. You know, I could still be serving as senator, but I gave that up to have this opportunity to express to people that why can't we sit down around the table? Why can't we work together, hear everybody out? I've done that many times in this process. People that have just, whether it was whatever views they disagreed with me, I would sit and listen, and people come away. People are happy when people listen to them, and that's how we need to get things done. But right now, no one's listening.
If I hear you correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you're saying you're learning to take on some of the different views of the voters in that particular region. But the same Bible passage that you chose to highlight there says that the enemy is not flesh and blood.
Right.
Yet in politics and your rhetoric, you've often described your opponents, other people, as wicked or evil. So my question is this:
their actions. Are
you comfortable telling millions of Illinoisans who disagree with you that they're aligned with the devil?
No, I have not done that. I've said the actions of certain people are wicked because, and they are, and they have been. If anyone who is a student of the Bible sees and understands that, and I hold to those views and values, but also, if I wanted to disassociate myself with government and go on my podcast and say whatever I wanted to say, like some people do, I would do that. But I choose to have hope that together we can understand each other and make things better. But when it comes to views like that, no, I will not compromise my views, but I hope that I can work with others in government so that we could all get along and figure this out in Illinois.
I hope you can appreciate the question. I find it interesting that someone would select that passage over, say, love your neighbor.
Oh gosh. So that's the easy way out, and my whole the devotional I gave you today. Hope maybe by reading that you'll see stories that
full disclosure. I received a gift. I don't know if that was a bribe before the interview, but
I know better than to try to bribe you. You know that
it's below the Society of Professional Journalists standards of $10, I think, so I can accept it.
Yes, that's right. It's free. So no. I truly believe that arming myself every day that I get up and go out for whatever avenue it is, but I do want to reiterate, I've never called anyone evil and wicked. It's their actions that I've called out.
You've called Governor Pritzker evil directly.
Well, I think within the scope of his actions.
So we should understand you to mean that. Okay, I hear you.
I think there's hope for anybody.
Let's zoom. I know we're talking about some of your personal views. Let's talk about political philosophy for a minute.
Sure.
Where would you rank Karl Marx on your list of political philosophers?
Well, political philosophers, obviously, he has had great influence, but I'd probably give him in the lower echelon of things. I don't really.
He's not really high on your list?
No, he's not. His views, honestly, somewhat concern me. The views that at least are being taught and picked up today in our colleges.
What concerns you most about his views?
Well, just the social fascism angle of things that I disagree with. I think that goes against everything this republic that we have stands for. But if we, the people, begin to slow down and not relinquish our rights and duties as Americans, then that's where we'll be headed, like many other republics have before.
Fair to say you're not a fan of government interference in private business?
No, I'm not.
And Marx's central idea, government controlling industry, that's exactly what you're warning against with Marxism or socialism.
Yeah.
President Trump just took a 10% equity stake in Intel and is pursuing similar deals where the federal government would take a controlling or a large majority interest in private companies, effectively nationalizing private industry. What would you have said if Barack Obama tried that?
Well, there's a lot to see if that happens. There's a lot to see why that's happening. I probably would have had a problem with it. And I haven't spoke to that because, as before, I'm focused on Illinois.
Well, Illinois companies could become subject to similar overtures. It wasn't long ago the president was threatening and insulting the CEO of Intel that led up to this.
Right.
Would you speak up? Is it fair for voters to look around and say, who were the loudest critics of Marxism in the last 10 years? Maybe
Right.
your name would be on that list.
Right.
Would you be just as critical today?
I would love to have as a serious governor candidate. If I do wind up in that position, I would love to have a conversation with many of the CEOs and understand their perspective, and again, listen and learn from the other side. So yes, at face value, it is as you say, and there's a concern there.
I've enjoyed this conversation quite a great deal. We've talked about public safety, we've talked about religious issues, we've talked about political philosophy, and maybe one last question about regionalism. You were the downstate guy.
Mm-hmm.
In 2019, you co-sponsored a resolution to make Chicago its own state. You embraced that downstate divorce to divide the land of Lincoln. Now, I know you say you don't. I know you say you don't support that
That's
now.
right. Well, no. HR 101. What it did, it was a measure, it was a resolution that was intended to go to Congress
Right.
to say, hey, things aren't going well here in Illinois, we need some help. It was not the bill to separate Chicago. I want to make sure that, and I did not, and I came out immediately as that was the interpretation and said that is not, it's like a marriage here that's in trouble, and I'm the one standing up saying, hey, Illinois needs some help here. House Resolution 101 was basically meant to point the discrepancies out that most of Illinois was not being heard.
But you know that it would take an act of Congress to allow that.
Oh, absolutely.
It looked like you were urging Congress to facilitate
No,
that. That looked like you were using your platform to represent your voters and say there's a downstate breakup brewing, and I'm part of it.
Right.
Were you wrong then, or are you backtracking now?
No, I have never changed. I think we were on some interviews. I think Annie Fry was the very first person that I went on with to explain, and I explained it just like that. There are problems, and you're right. To split a state, you would have to do that at state level. Then Congress would have to approve it.
Last time it happened?
West Virginia and
1863.
Virginia,
Lincoln was president.
due to basically an executive order that he created, which you can't, to my knowledge, that can't happen as swift as it did then. But can you imagine what a 100-state republic would look like with 50 of the states being big cities? And I think it'd be a disaster.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So no, I'm on record. I'd
Isn't that where we're going, with red states getting redder and blue states getting bluer?
Well, I think that especially, and that's why I would consider the run for governor this year, because in Illinois, people aren't happy. Things are getting worse. JB's approval rating has diminished somewhat in the last few months. The people in Chicago, people aren't happy because it's costing too much. People aren't happy because our education's failing. People aren't happy because, still as the way a no cash bail sets, they do feel threatened. They are in danger. Business is moving out. Cindy and I were in, like I said earlier, in Michigan Avenue, and there's stores that were there 2 years ago that are gone now. So.
Well, you've just teased our next interview beautifully. We can explore the end of cash bail, crime, and all of its effects in the last few years since that's been implemented. Senator Darren Bailey, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We're back in a moment.